What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. Pokémon each have their own special, unique qualities that make them stand out from one another. And sometimes that can be augmented even further by giving them their own signature moves. Oftentimes these moves reflect the lore behind these Pokémon, so that their limited use makes sense within the games, and just makes the Pokémon that much more distinctive. But we won't be talking about specific Z moves, since that's a different topic altogether. And I never thought I'd have to say this, but some people still aren't getting it. So these are signature moves, meaning only one Pokémon or evolutionary family can learn it. So yes, Sacred Fire is a great move, but since Ho-Oh and Entei can learn it naturally, it's not eligible. Or one of my favorites was Spiky Shield, but then we got some Cactus Pokémon horning in on the action. So, you got it? No? Still gonna get ineligible suggestions down in the comments? Yeah, of course we are. Okay. So, without further ado, here are the top 6 best and worst signature moves in Pokémon. Number 6 worst, Fairy Lock. Starting off, we find a pile of keys with a signature move that is only tangentially related to it. Klefki's signature move, Fairy Lock, is a status move that affects the entire field, and it simply prevents anyone from escaping. Get it? Fairy Lock? 'Cause keys? Yeah, that sounds pretty well and good, but looking at the description, we see that Fairy Lock only prevents splitting from the battle for 1 turn. Seriously? Why just the 1 turn? Pretty much every other method of trapping a Pokémon is permanent, so having one that's so limited really doesn't seem that useful to me. It must be a pretty cheap lock if it can be picked so easily. I realize that Klefki has the Prankster ability, and so that this move will be guaranteed to hit first, but what's a Klefki gonna do with that 1 extra turn anyway? Get 1 turn's worth of toxic damage? Or swagger them just so they can immediately switch out afterwards? Fairy Lock is an extremely situational move that has no real usefulness on the one Pokémon that can use it. And funnily enough, Klefki could have been on this list twice if its other signature move, Crafty Shield, hadn't been expanded this generation to save it from being the absolute worst. Number 6 best, Spirit Shackle. Decidueye being the first Ghost-type starter was an interesting prospect, and one that it pulled off with graceful intensity. And to go along with the new trend, the starters have to have a signature move. Decidueye's Spirit Shackle is an amazing move that I used so often in the games. This 80 power physical ghost move is described as stitching the shadow of the opponent to the ground, preventing them from escaping. That's not just an amazing concept, but that's the right way to block an opponent from leaving battle. Take note, Fairy Lock, because Spirit Shackle traps foes permanently. Not even your standard U-turn shenanigans will get you free. But what's so great about Spirit Shackle is just how tied to the Pokémon it is. Not only is it learned immediately upon evolution, which is a new feature I love in Gen 7, but Decidueye is the only Pokémon that has ever had the bow and arrow as its weapon of choice. So it'd be pretty hard to ever transfer this move, unless they give some other Pokémon the same niche gimmick, or if they change the very specific animation. But I'm okay with that, because Spirit Shackle is a solid move, with full accuracy, and a great secondary effect that also perfectly embodies the one Pokémon that has access to it. Number 5 worst, Crush Grip. Oh, Regigigas, here we go again. If its ability wasn't bad enough, this Golem Master is stuck with a lackluster signature move as well. The move in question is Crush Grip, and this is not just terrible because it can technically have a power of 1. This move's effectiveness is determined by the target's HP. The more it has, the more the move will do, maxing out at a possible 120 power if the foe has full health. But with each subsequent hit, it will do less and less. So what looks like a clear knockout might not pack enough punch to finish the job the next time. And sure, there are other variable damage moves, but number 1, they aren't really signature. But more importantly, remember the Pokémon to which Crush Grip belongs. Regigigas has its speed heavily hampered for the first several turns of battle. So, if you wanted to use this move, you might not be able to even get off all of the available PP before you die. And there's only 5. Add in the fact that your physical attack is also cut, and you realize that this physical move, that would hypothetically be best at the start of battle, can't even really be used then, leaving Crush Grip a severely narrow window to even try and be useful, if it ever could at all. Number 5 best, Psystrike. Mewtwo has been a pretty powerful Pokemon since the beginning. Now, I don't know if someone saw the looming power creep and decided that they had to keep Mewtwo near the top, but in Generation 5, Mewtwo received a new signature move. Psystrike was a massively powerful Psychic-type blast at 100 base power with 100 accuracy, which actually puts it in a pretty unique position among other legendary signature moves. Usually, if a legendary move has this much power, it's not fully accurate. Or there's some sort of drawback, like lowering your stats or having to recharge, giving Psystrike the freedom to be unleashed at your discretion. However, Psystrike does have one more intriguing feature, in that while it is still a special move, it does physical damage. If that sounds familiar, it's because that's the same setup as the move Psyshock, but just with more power. This means that Mewtwo gets to use its higher special attack on a high-powered special move to take out foes that prioritize being a special wall, but aren't quite as good on the defensive side. So basically Mewtwo can kill you no matter where you invest your defenses. It's just really nice to see Mewtwo still getting attention with this upgrade, so that it doesn't fade into obscurity, as is the fate of other long-lasting Pokemon. Number 4 worst, Electrify. For some reason in the Kalos region, there seemed to be a huge influx of signature moves, or at least in proportion to the smaller amount of actual new Pokemon introduced as well. One that I've never quite understood belongs to the Heliolisk line with Electrify. Now this is a status move that when it hits a target, it turns their moves into electric type for that turn. Okay, I mean we'd already been given Ion Deluge, which turns normal type moves into electric, and even the new signature move of Zeraora, Plasma Fist, has the same secondary effect. So arguably Electrify could be considered better in that regard, since this applies to more than just normal type moves, but even then, is it really that useful? Helioptile and Heliolisk are perfectly fine Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but they don't inherently benefit from taking electric type damage. Sure, they resist those hits, but it's not like it has Lightning Rod. In fact, if you look at all of its abilities, they're all weather-based. So maybe this move would have been better off electrifying weather conditions in some way. I guess Electrify could be usable with the right partner, but if your signature move is only any good because it's paired with anyone else, it lets you know that it's not a great match. Number 4 best, Oblivion Wing. First of all, this move has just about the best name in the franchise. Oblivion Wing is perfect for a Digimon to shout just before they unleash an explosion of energy, which isn't that far off here. The signature move of Yveltal creates a giant wave of destruction and fires down at the foe. Not only does this pack a hefty punch with 80 power behind it, but it also restores your HP. Oblivion Wing not only is the sole flying type move that's able to restore HP, but the majority of damaging HP recovery moves will give you back half of the damage that you've done to the opponent. However, Oblivion Wing restores 75%. It's 50% better than all of the other common health sapping moves, and has a higher base power than most of them to begin with. So I don't know how all of it works exactly with the lore of, I guess Yveltal feeds off of their death energy, where the weaker your enemy gets, the stronger you get. I don't really have to know, I just get to enjoy it. Now some people might say, Xerneas' signature move Geomancy is way better, idiot. But raising your stats on the next turn, honestly, could be better in my opinion. It's a little too long-winded for just playing through the story, and it's easily anticipated and competitive, so I'll gladly take Oblivion Wing to tear through my enemies, turning their pain into my renewed strength. And I mostly just wanted to say Oblivion Wing one more time. Number 3 worst, conversion. Whoa, what are you talking about? Z conversion is great. Well, first of all, we're not talking about Z moves. That's an entirely separate topic and one that has limited relevance as of late. But secondly, just look at the actual move. Conversion is a move that changes the user's type, in this case a member of the Porygon line, to the same type as one of its moves. Now, it used to be able to pull from any move, but now it's only from the first one. Well, that's a neat trick, I guess, to pull off all of once. It's not like the first slot in your moveset can change during the middle of battle. So if you wanted to, you could change into, say, the Ghost type, but really, that's it. At least Conversion 2 can be used multiple times to give you resistances to incoming attacks. But the original Conversion draws from one specific quarter of your moveset. I suppose you could rearrange it in between battles, but that's a lot of work, and you might end up guessing wrong. This is demonstrably worse than when Conversion would draw randomly from your moves. It just narrowed the possibilities far too much. And what's even worse is that Conversion used to be even better, because when the move was first introduced, it changed Porygon into the same type as whatever it was facing. Now, if that conjures a vague recollection in your mind, that's because that is the same function as the new move Reflect Type, which is used to great effect by a number of different Pokémon, while the Porygon clan is stuck with Conversion. That's been changed so many times that at this point it's almost useless. Number 3 best, Fiery Dance. Volcarona is one of those Pokémon that you look at and think, maybe bug types aren't such pushovers. In fact, it was speculated that Volcarona might even be a legendary, or at least was planned to be at one point, with its own special encounter and everything. But any good legendary worth their soul salt has to have a signature move, and for Volcarona, it pretty much hit the jackpot. Fiery Dance is a base 80 power move with 100 accuracy. That's a pretty decent setup as far as damage to accuracy ratios go. But that's not all. Every time you use this move, there's a 50% chance to raise Volcarona's special attack. That means every other time you use Fiery Dance, it could get even stronger the next time. And that's already drawing from Volcarona's ludicrously high special attack to begin with, and potentially any Quiver Dances that you might have set up too. Apparently the developers realized that this move was crazy good, and they stuck it at the very last possible slot all the way at level 100, providing a magnificent reward for those dedicated enough to train their loyal partners to the max. But in later gens, you could also learn it through the move Reminder, meaning that you only had to wait till level 59 for evolution, which is still just preposterously high for a Pokemon to evolve. But with the utility Fiery Dance provides, it not only lets this Flame Moth hit hard with the fire, but makes even its other coverage moves pack more of a punch, which just makes Volcarona's Fiery Dance a signature move one for the ages. Number 2 worst, Barrage. I've made no secret about my general distaste for Execute, mostly for the fact that it makes no sense whatsoever. But maybe the Pokemon Company had a similar mindset, because when it comes to signature moves, this has got to be one of the most rotten. Now, looking at the raw facts, we see that Barrage is a base 15 power move. However, the move will always hit between 2 and 5 times. Now, this is no different than a number of multi-hit moves that you can find out there, but those have never really been a grade A choice for me anyway. I mean, they're not even really that great in the early game. Sure, you could hit 5 times in a row, but it's more likely that you'll just miss, since Barrage has only 85 accuracy for some reason, which means it probably won't go over easy. But remember, Barrage is the signature move of Execute, meaning it doesn't even get stab on this normal type move. But even when you crunch the numbers, the actual average damage of this move is only 47.5. So not only does Barrage not crack the top, but it is literally the second lowest base power of any move Execute can even learn, leaving you to scramble for anything better. And the description simply reads that they hurl round objects at the foe, so they are clearly just sacrificing their brethren in a hard-boiled attempt to cause damage. At least Alolan Executor got the signature Dragon Hammer, so I guess that What? Oh, never mind. Looks like it was poached by Tropius in the Ultra games. So it's stuck with Barrage being the only one unique feature left in their basket. Number 2 best, Fire Lash. So I didn't mean to have 2 Unova fire types in a row, but here we are. It's fair to say that Heatmor is one of the more forgettable Pokémon to most fans. And if people haven't forgotten about it, it's likely because they dislike this pyromaniac anteater. I guess the folks in charge took notice because in Generation 7, they added in a signature move for Heatmor that would give it a huge boost, provided anyone would actually bother with it after all this time. Fire Lash is an 80 base power physical move that has Heatmor create a burning whip of fire, presumably with its tongue. That's pretty basic. What's so great about it? Well, every time Fire Lash hits, it lowers the target's defense. Every time. Even if the first hit didn't do much, it will do more the next time, and even more the next time. This is insane. Sure, there are other moves with a chance to lower stats, but Fire Lash is guaranteed to make every successive blow stronger than the last. And they can't even hope that you'll miss because it's 100% accurate. There's literally no downside to this overpowered move that would start to be a problem for Pokémon that aren't even weak to the fire type. Fire Lash is simply a fantastic move, and for some reason it's on Heatmor, an otherwise completely average Pokémon that many have forgotten about. Maybe now this almost game-breaking move can get people to finally show Heatmor some respect. Number 1 worst, Kinesis. One of the undisputed best Pokémon to use in the first generation was the Abra line. This was partially because the Psychic type was just generally unbeatable, but also largely because Alakazam had incredibly high stats, assuming that you could find someone to actually trade with you and you weren't stuck with a Kadabra. So for a Pokémon line that was so pivotal, you'd think that they'd have a signature move that would adequately display their monumental acumen. And you'd be wrong. These indefinable psychic man-beasts were given the move Kinesis, which sounds on brand, especially when you read the description. The user distracts the target by bending a spoon. Yep, no other Pokemon could have this move. Kadabra and Alakazam got it on lock. But supposedly this lowers the target's accuracy, which is painfully ironic because for some unknown reason, Kinesis only has 80 accuracy. This thing has telepathy and an IQ of 5,000. It should be able to hit a stationary target. Literally, Mega Alakazam could use this move with each of its spoons and one of them would miss. And what's super annoying is that they both try and learn Kinesis upon evolving in the new games. Listen, I really love the new mechanic where a Pokemon will learn a set move whenever they evolve regardless of level. But if I didn't want it the first time, I definitely don't want it a second. Especially since these Pokemon have been able to learn Flash since Gen 1. So if you really need to lower accuracy for some reason, do it in a way that won't miss, as opposed to this tragically useless signature move that besmirches the name of an otherwise stellar Pokemon line. Number 1 best, 1000 Arrows. The ground type has been my favorite for a long time, because it's the best. But for some reason, there are more Pokemon immune to ground than any other type. Even more than all of the normal types put together. Because not only are there flying types to contend with, but also the fairly common Levitate ability. So by the time Gen 6 rolled around, I imagined Zygarde had enough of its Earthen brethren being ignored and decided to do something about it. Zygarde actually has several signature moves, including Land's Wrath, Thousand Waves, and Core Enforcer. These are all pretty formidable moves in their own right, but none can hold up to 1000 Arrows. This is a 90 power, 100 accuracy ground move. So you might think, big deal, it's not even as strong as Earthquake. But 1000 Arrows has an astounding secondary effect. This move can hit Pokemon even in the air. It doesn't matter if they're flying type or have Levitate. They will be affected by this ground type move no matter what. And there really is no escaping it, because Thousand Arrows still hits targets with an air balloon or ones that have used Magnet Rise. But even more than that, this move also grounds the targets as well. Grounding them means that they can now be affected by other ground-type moves from different Pokémon, and also will now be influenced by things like various terrains or even Arena Trap, to which they would normally be immune. Thousand Arrows owns the skies as well as the ground, and if there was any doubt, Zygarde's move even hits Pokémon that have used Fly, knocking them all the way down to the ground and just completely canceling their move altogether. That is power right there. And that's also why this move is at the top of the list. I can't ever see Thousand Arrows getting much wider distribution because too many Pokémon darkening the skies with this move would obliterate the game as we know it. A move this powerful that has an astounding secondary effect that not only bypasses but completely dismantles enemies that would normally not have to worry absolutely makes Thousand Arrows the best signature move in the game, if not just one of the best in general. So, those are the top 6 best and worst signature moves in Pokémon. If you're wondering why a certain move wasn't on the list, it's probably either not signature, or at least in the case of the best, it has a chance to miss. 'Cause, come on, you can't miss if you're the best, right? Also, since I know that there are people watching this one that haven't yet subscribed, why not do so to become an Imperial today? Also, be sure to leave a like, share this video, and leave your own thoughts on signature moves down in the comments. And we'll see you around next time!